Hello, and welcome back to Writing Women, the show where I will be examining the women who exist in fiction and the people who created them. This week, I'm going to follow up on my last episode by covering the next book in the Song of the Lioness series, In the Hand of the Goddess. While camping in the woods on her way back to Chorus from an errand, Alanna's campsite, set up under a willow tree, is discovered by a small black cat, whom she names Faithful. It does not escape Alanna's notice that his eyes are as purple as her own. She also finds out that Faithful can talk to her, although to others it sounds as if he is meowing. Soon after, the Great Mother Goddess, Alanna's patron, shows up at her campfire. She gives Alanna an amulet that allows the young woman to see magic being worked around her. As she progresses into knighthood, Alanna's feminine side is nurtured as well. After a few visits with Alanna, George Cooper's mother, Alanna realizes that part of her wants to act like the ladies she sees in court. Alanna takes Alanna under her wing and secretly teaches her how to dress and behave like a woman. The change does not go unnoticed by George or Prince Jonathan, the only two friends with whom she has shared her secret about her sex. John and Alanna share their first kiss after he rescues her when she was kidnapped by nobles from Toussaint, and they become lovers soon after, although George made it clear to Alanna that he loved her before they went to war. Alanna withstands the ordeal of knighthood and becomes a knight. Her twin brother Tom presents her with a shield featuring the crest of their home estate, Trebond. When he and Alanna are alone after the ceremony, he shows her that when she is ready to reveal to everyone she is a woman, the Trebond crest will disappear, and in its place will be the picture of a golden lioness rearing on a field of red. Alanna discovers her longtime nemesis, Duke Roger of Quartet, her prince's cousin, has a plan to kill the king, Queen, Jonathan, and even Alanna herself in order to take the throne. After her knighthood, Alanna accuses Roger publicly and he demands a duel. During the duel, he accidentally slices through the special corset Alanna wears to keep her breasts flat, revealing to everyone that she is very much a woman. Her friends, including Jonathan and Miles, step up and tell the king that they knew beforehand that she was a female. Driven to rage at being challenged by a woman, Roger attacks and attempts to use an illusion to confuse Alanna. She uses the amulet given to her by the goddess in the beginning of the novel and, spotting the deception, is able to defeat and kill Roger. After her battle, Alanna decides not to stick around to deal with the initial uproar of her sex. With Faithful, her longtime manservant Coram, and her horse Moonlight, she has a tearful goodbye with Jonathan and sets off for the desert in the south in search for more adventure. There's a lot I like about this book and a lot I dislike. Alanna's relationships with her friends continue to be one of the strongest points of her story. I've always thought that showing strong friendships is something that Pierce has a knack for. Before I get into the stuff that actually shocked me this time around, I want to bring up a common complaint I see when scrolling through reviews of these first two books and address it. The first two books take place over the course of about 8 years. I've mentioned before how they are crammed with tons of action and large groundbreaking events that almost get glossed over because they have to move on to the next thing. The reason for that is due heavily to the publishing landscape at the time. This was a pre-Harry Potter time, and large fantasy books for young adults were not considered marketable, doubly so because they featured a female protagonist. The books, the first two especially, had to be severely shortened while still trying to keep the major story beats. Pierce has commented on this a lot in the intervening years. I'm sure a lot of us fans would be interested to see what the longer drafts of these original books look like. I like a lot of the imagery in the book. We see Alanna exploring her feminine side and learning that masculinity and femininity don't have to be either or. She accepts that she likes pretty things and she likes to look pretty, but she also likes to absolutely destroy a knight from a rival country in a fencing match and help the blacksmith repairing weapons. Sometimes I go on Goodreads to see what other people say, good or bad, about something I like, so I can try to understand a different perspective on it. This can sometimes be just as frustrating as reading the comments on Facebook or just generally existing on Twitter. A common complaint I see in negative reviews about the book is people complaining how Roger is acting so suspicious but nobody does anything about it. Fortunately, when I see complaints like that, I can happily ignore them, knowing that person may not have even finished the book or may have skimmed it and missed some key points. To be fair, if you skim it all, you miss major points because of the aforementioned shortening of the story. There's something almost cartoonishly funny about a villain who is so bad at being evil that he has to cast a potent spell that blocks any of his victims from thinking too hard on his actions. That's something only a villain like Duke Roger could manage. All power and ambition, but not much cunning to hide his desire. There's a lot I enjoy about the book, but there are two very big things that actually made me angry this time around. George and Jonathan. I don't have a problem with Alanna not wanting to fall in love, but doing it anyway because her main reason for doing so is rooted in the trauma of losing her mother. She says that when you fall in love, you give a piece of yourself to someone, and then when they leave or die, you never get that piece back. Her accepting love from someone could easily be read as her overcoming her fear of loss. Now, would it be interesting to see a YA story about a girl in this situation, surrounded by boys who also didn't have to wind up falling in love at the end? Sure. Unfortunately, I doubt this story would have been published if that were the case. My problem is with the complete violation of consent in both of their approach to Alanna. The first time George kisses Alanna, he waits until she can't resist him. He actually says this in the book, and forces a kiss on her. Of course, because it is framed as romantic instead of him forcing himself on her, Alanna just blushes and doesn't fight him much. Which brings me to her night with John. Throughout the book, Jonathan sneaks kisses on Alanna, and while surprise kisses are a pet peeve of mine, those aren't the worst possible thing he could do. No, that comes when she actually struggles against him, shoves him away, revokes consent, and he says, "You're fighting what has to be, and you know it as well as I do." She keeps struggling, and eventually he lets her go, and she runs to her room upset. You know, because she was just assaulted. But after a few minutes of thinking, she realizes, you know what? John is right. What she needs is a friend that she trusted with her life to repeatedly force himself on her and ignore her telling him to stop. It's not a horrible abuse of the power dynamic between them. It's romantic. And she falls into his bed. This left such a sour taste in my mouth, I put the book back down for a few days. When I was younger, I really thought this scene was romantic, but fast forward to now, and after the things I've been through in my own life and seen some of my friends go through, and I really wish I could just erase it from the pages and replace it with something that's actually sweet and romantic, where Alanna enthusiastically consents without coercion. Dubious consent is pretty common in romance books, but I really wish it wasn't here. Overall, I think this book is a net positive. I wish there was more of a reaction to Alanna's big reveal toward the end, but the next two books do cover reactions to her true gender pretty thoroughly. It just seemed a bit weird that the king's response was limited to asking who else knew about it. Then again, that could also probably be attributed to the publishing problems that I mentioned previously. One more book in this series down, 2 to go. I'm enjoying reading them so much because it's been so long, and despite coming across some things that are making me a little uncomfortable in retrospect, I am remembering why I love these books so much. I'm going to start uploading a few other types of content as well as these, so I'm pretty excited about that. My voice probably sounds pretty terrible right now, pretty scratchy, because I have been very, very sick. I keep losing my voice and it keeps coming back, and so it's very difficult for me to speak normally right now. It's really upsetting. It's really difficult for me to talk in general. My dog keeps wandering around and nudging my feet and making noise, and it's really irritating, but I love him and he doesn't want to be away from me, so what can you do? If you've listened this far, thanks so much. See you next time. Hope you enjoyed it.